Well, welcome back, folks, to our Catching Up series where we catch up with some of our great Georgia Tennis Hall of Fame members. And we're so blessed today to be joined by a Georgia legend in all the sense of the word, class of 2006, head coach of Georgia Tech men's tennis, Kenny Thorne. Kenny, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Darren. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you for joining us today. And, when I was looking at your, we'll put your resume up on the screen here shortly. You've kind of come full circle, being such a great player at Georgia Tech and now leading the men's program. Just finished your 28th season, I believe. Can you imagine you're still there and still a big part of the Georgia Tech athletics community?
No, it's pretty amazing. I actually tell people they paid me not to use my degree here, so they put me on the coaching staff, keep the degree at a high level. But no, I never would have thought I would be here. I told people, I think for about 5 years, I've been here about 20 years, but now going on, I guess, 28, if you say so.
Yeah, that's what I added. I mean, I'm not as good as math as some of your students, but that's what I came up with. So that's what we're going to go with. But well, you've obviously come, so many impacts with so many players and coaches and young people, and we can spend hours talking about all the great players you've turned out, not just on the court, but in the classroom, and great members of society. But when you started, you grew up in a military family. I think your dad was part of the Navy, right? Born in Hawaii, ended up in Alabama. Can you talk about that experience briefly of having kind of maybe the guy you looked up to the most serving your country, and how that influenced you growing up?
Absolutely. Yeah, my dad was in the Navy. He flew. He was a pilot and flew I think the AD Sky Raider, which he said at that time they had to slow the aircraft carrier down so he could catch up to it. And but he makes fun of it, but he loved his time in the Navy, and that set something inside of me that I've got just nothing but the ultimate respect for anybody who serves in our military. And I know you have a military family background as well, and very impressive. We were just talking about it. And can't thank these guys enough that go into it. I've had a lot of friends all the way through. And when I lived in Richmond, Virginia, I had two guys that went to BMI. One became a Navy SEAL, and actually was unfortunately killed in a training accident. And so every time we have a match and I'm looking at that flag, Mark Wilson, he comes to my mind, and he's was an incredible guy. His brother was on the tennis team with me. They're twins. So I'm just and really behind all the veterans and everybody who's served our country. Absolutely. But I got out. I lived in Hawaii just for 2 years, and I was born in Tripler, the little hospital there that is a Navy hospital. And then my dad ended up getting out of the Navy and went with Reynolds Metals, Reynolds Aluminum. So we moved to Corpus Christi, Texas, Hot Springs, Arkansas, over to Alabama, Florence, Alabama. And so I kind of moved quite a bit, Richmond, and ended up in Georgia. Georgia's my home. I've been here for a while, so it's absolutely home for me.
Corpus Christi, Texas, the famous HEB Tennis Center where you
There
played.
you go. Bob Mates. I don't know if
That's
you know
right.
Bob Mates. Yeah,
Oh,
he was
sure.
my first tennis lesson, Bob
Yeah,
Mates.
my in-laws lived there for a little bit, so we spent a little
There you
time in
go.
Corpus. Yeah, that was great. So my granddad, what you probably don't know, he was the part of the original graduating class of, at that point, Arizona Teachers College, which is now, of course, University of Arizona in Tucson. Played
Yeah.
football for them, and then went, obviously that time that in that part of our nation's history, you served your
Yeah.
country. There really wasn't
Yes,
much of
you
a
did.
debate. You did it,
You
and
did it. That's
you
right.
did it
He
very
got
well.
out. My dad got out just before the Vietnam War. He had a lot of friends that went into it and gave their lives, and just really, yeah, you served your country, and you gave, a lot of people gave all. So
Yeah,
ultimate respect.
yeah. God bless all of our veterans and their families.
Absolutely.
Memorial Day, Veterans Day. These are important days in our country. I hope and trust everyone agrees with that. So.
Yes, they are. Yes, they
Okay,
are.
so you ended up in eventually Alabama, I think, where you spent most of your junior tennis career, where you came across a legendary coach, Bill Tim. I know he had a huge influence on you. I think every great player, they get to the right coach at the right time connects with them. I think, maybe sometimes by fluke or just blind luck or whatever, or location or that probably was the case with you and Bill, right? Can you talk about Bill's influence on you and maybe how he's influenced you now as a coach?
Yeah, absolutely. And God rest his soul. He passed away this year.
You did.
And so blessings to his wife, Wanda. But my dad lived in Florence, and Bill and Wanda were in Huntsville, Alabama at the time. So we were driving back and forth just to get lessons from him. And so after, I think about 6 months, I think my parents got really tired of driving. He offered to have me come live with him. So this
Okay.
when I was about 15 years old. Uh, and it's a tough decision for a parent. I've been asked many times, do you live away from home? I've got 4 kids. I think family is most important. But at that time where we lived, we had zero tennis. I was either going to basically give it up or really excel, because the reputation of Coach Tim was very high. And you go to a few drill sessions with him, you would understand it. And so we made the tough decision to go ahead and have me go live over there for 2 years. And my parents would come over on weekends or take us to tournaments on weekends. And it was all tennis. It was absolutely, you got up in the morning and before school, you had an hour and a half drill session. I went to Huntsville High School for a little bit, then went over to Grissom High School for a little bit. And right after school, I had a private lesson with him every day. And then we had group drill sessions for another 2 hours. And then we'd go back and we'd eat, study, and then come back and hit serves in the evening.
Wow.
And so that was about 2 years of my life. And he, just the tennis IQ of Bill Tim was incredible. It's influenced my coaching tremendously here. He was a kind of wanted to develop all court and wanted to learn how to volley. He actually started at the net volleying, moved back and warmed up, ground strokes later. So he was kind of opposite of a lot of people. So we learned how to play the net game. But I moved away from there. My parents had to talk me into going to a high school football game when we moved away from Alabama, because I don't think I even knew they had high school football games on Friday nights. I was going out and hitting serves. So I think they're a little worried about if I was going to develop on all areas and be an antisocial kid. So they said, hey, you took my rackets away for a little bit, go to a high school football game, enjoy yourself. So when I moved out of there, I lived in 2 years in Richmond, Virginia. And that's where I came to Georgia Tech from there, and hadn't left ever since. But Bill was a huge influence. Then I thought I worked hard. I think everybody comes in contact with a coach who lets them know they probably aren't doing exactly what they think they're doing. And he was my wake-up call. I absolutely would not be here or had the tennis career without him. And so, yeah, I owe a lot to him.
Yeah. The coach I had was my freshman year. I played for Ed Collins at USD.
There you
I thought
go.
I was doing well, a typical freshman, and he just sat me down at the end of the year and just read me the riot act. I mean, sometimes you need someone to tell you that.
Yeah, it's how you respond to that.
Better player,
That's
cousin.
exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah. He did it very directly, of course, but
Yeah.
obviously, what a great coach. I mean, his record speaks
Well,
for
coming from the military background, you probably took it pretty well.
Yeah,
That's,
yeah,
that's, you're kind of used to that.
We try. Well, you came across another icon and titan in our sport during your junior playing career, and you all obviously became very close. And And that, of course, is another Georgia Hall of Famer, Bryan Shelton, who ended up coaching at Tech with you, won a national championship in 2007, then won another one at Florida with the men, and obviously what he's doing at Ben now. How did you meet Bryan? Obviously, you guys clicked pretty well, and your remembrances of watching Bryan grow up and develop as a player and as a man and as a father.
Yeah, and I'll say before, blessings to his family. His mom just passed away this year, same year as
Tough
Bill
year.
Tim. Yeah, so lived a great life, incredible woman. She was the one that used to drive Bryan and I around in her little brown Honda to all the junior tournaments in Georgia. We'd go all different places, and her and my mom were really close, and were kind of the Uber drivers of the time. And so you want to always thank them and the special sacrifices they made to get us to where we are, Bryan and I both. But Bryan and I met in the juniors. We became really close when I moved to Huntsville. He lived there, was under Coach Tim. And when you go through the pretty extensive training and brutal training, there's a serious bond that happens. I know, like you go through something in the military really tough, and you're going to have a bond. And so those 2 years I was in Huntsville, we became best friends, and our tennis kind of started taking off together. At the same time, I'd always say he was definitely better than me, but I was scrapping and trying to keep up. He definitely made me a better person and a harder worker. And we had a great friendship early on, and we weren't necessarily going to the same colleges or anything. We ended up taking a lot of the same trips together. Went up to the University of Illinois together, I think Duke and a couple others. But we both ended up wanting to start something at Georgia Tech, and really Gary Groleman was the coach at the time, recruited us both. And yeah, and it was a friendship that we ended up kind of keeping it all the way through college and on to the pros. And he was the best man at my wedding, and we're all happy for him of what he did here at Georgia Tech, what he did at University of Florida, and now is having the honor of coaching his son out on the pro tour, which that says a lot about his character, that he can do that and they still have a relationship. I think my son and Ben played tennis together growing up, and I think if I was coaching my son and made him keep playing, we would have no relationship. So my son was wise, and he ended up not playing as much. He didn't have the desire as much, but our relationship is incredible. I've got an incredible family, and we're very, very tight. So
yeah,
we're just cheering for Bryan and Ben right now, as everybody in the Georgia tennis community is.
Sure. Well, the first time I really had any real conversation with Bryan Shelton was at the 2006 NCAA's. The first time ever the men and women were together. It was at Stanford. I was on the women's crew as one of the chair umpires. And Northwestern played Georgia Tech in the very first match. I ended up on the deciding match. And nice. Northwestern won. I think it was like 7-4 in the final set tiebreak. It was a tough match. It was a really well played match. And you know how it is, Kenny. You're a coach. You know, when you lose in the NCAA, it's the finality of it like hits you in the face, right?
Yeah.
And you're not prepared for it. And Bryan took the time. Now his season had just finished. To come over and shake my hand, thank me for the job I did, and wish me the best. He didn't know who I was, and I knew who he was, obviously, not as well as you did. And I remember saying to him, Coach, if you're recruiting student athletes like the one out here today, you're going to be fine. Keep up the good work. That's all I said to him. The next year, that same player won the deciding match to win the national championship for him.
Yeah.
On Georgia courts, which I knew meant a lot to him, right? winning in Athens.
Absolutely.
So what a great coach and great.
Well, he's going to do it right, and that's what I admired. My parents, when we would travel with his family to junior tournaments, they would tell me that I came back a better person. So they said, you can go hang with the Sheltons. You're gonna be okay. They're yes sir, no sir type people, and please, thank you. And eventually we learn how to actually be thankful and gracious, but we start out saying please and thank you. So
Right, exactly.
and that's what their family taught and my
Well,
family taught.
I know he's had a huge influence over a lot of people, and you maybe more than anyone over all the years. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, like you mentioned, you went to Georgia Tech as you know, playing with Bryan, and great success, All American in 1988, All ACC, all everything. Um, Looking back on your college playing experience, was it a good balance with academics and tennis? Did you get everything you wanted out of Georgia? Obviously, you enjoyed the place because you basically made it your home for all these years. But what do you remember about those years playing for the Yellow Jackets?
Yeah, I think Georgia Tech is a tough school, very obviously a great reputation. And we wanted, as Bryan and I kind of went in, I think we had the same mindset. I wanted to excel at both. I wanted to excel academically, and I wanted to excel in tennis. And it wasn't like an absolute dream to go play pro tennis, but I just kind of had a process mindset of just let's see how good I can get. And Gary Groleman did a good job of bringing players in, and I, I think my first year was one of the toughest. It just academically, we're faced with a lot of things that is much harder than the high schools that I went to. But it refined me a lot. And we really didn't have time for too much outside of tennis and school. But as it went along, it you got into your majors and you did different things. You did have time, and Atlanta's an incredible city. There's pros that come in and out of here all the time, and so it was. We got a chance to play with some of the top 100 players in the world consistently. We got, obviously, I think at that time Clemson was probably with Chuck Creasy was the best team in the ACC,
Yep.
and they had, Jay Berger, they had Kent Kinnear, some different guys that just were very good, and so that was a big challenge, and we were kind of coming into it, and started kind of competing for titles, and that was a lot of fun because a lot of the weight was put on our Bryan and I, and we had Richie Gilbert, and we had some really good players all the way through, but it was fun to be a part of something special there, but it was unique. You were studying, you were getting out, finished with matches, and you're going to study. And
Sure.
I always say it kind of makes you a professional. I think a lot of people think, okay, you're gonna be able to go play pro tennis and you get to play tennis, and that is not the case. When you go to the pro tour, and if you get good enough, you got the tournament director needs you to meet with sponsors. They need you to do a pro-am. They need you to do this, and so don't get caught up in thinking I'm going to go play pro tennis and just play tennis. You're going to have to balance a lot of things, and that's what Georgia Tech taught me how to do. So it was a gift into professionalism for me.
Sure. That's interesting. You put it that way. I could see that. Really could. Now I'm sure how humble you are. You probably do know this, but you don't talk about it. You still have the career single season wins record at Georgia Tech, 43, and I think the next person's 34. It's not even close, Kenny. 34 is next. Did you know that?
I didn't know that, but I thought guys kind of tell me when they beat some record. I never look at them. I don't. I mean, I think you're always like, oh man, I didn't do this or I didn't do that.
Right.
I didn't, and that's kind of where your mind goes to. But I don't. No, I get that's great. It's an honor. I mean, there's a lot of very good players.
You were for a long time the all-time 4-year career winner record, and then Guillermo Gomez, one of your great players, passed you. I'm sure he
said something. He did. He told me after he passed me, so he was scared I was going to pull him out of the lineup, and I was like, well, I might have
Right,
considered it
right,
if I
right,
knew. I had no clue.
right. But that's
He was a great
incredible.
player, really good
To this
player.
day, I mean, it's not even close, folks. Look it up. He's almost 10
Yeah.
clear of the second place person. So I'm
Well,
sure it'll be broken.
Guillermo Gomez, great player. He had a great match in the finals of national indoors with Stevie Johnson. I think it was 7-6, 6-7, 7-6.
Wow.
And we had him playing on the court, and then right next to it is Irina Falcone
Right.
was playing in the finals there. Unfortunately, I think we lost both. I don't know if Irina, I think she might have lost as well, but it was a fun time to see. And I remember Stevie came off and I was like, man, that was just an incredible match. Both of them were playing incredible. They were
Sure.
loose, playing all out. It was just a fun match to literally, I just was watching,
And
not
regular
coaching.
scoring, too. So it lasted
Yeah,
quite
that's
a
right.
while.
That's right.
Right. All right. So you moved on to the pro ranks, had a tremendous pro career. I mean, finishing, top 120 in singles, 67 career high ranking in doubles. That's incredible. Great job. You got some great wins too, right? You beat a Wimbledon champion, Mr. Krychek, one time, if I memory
Richard,
serves me
right?
correct.
I mean, stay out there long enough, you're going to beat some people.
Yeah.
But it was, yeah, it was an honor playing against those guys, playing at the slams, and everybody knows. I mean, you got a tennis community here that's probably watching this, and they know the tough parts of the tour, and so getting some opportunities against some of the top players as you travel around. It's incredible. And, being at the Grand Slams is incredible. The travel is incredible for a few years, then it gets tough.
Yeah.
But it's, yeah. But I think just the ability to be able to do something you love doing and, for so long, I did it for 8 years. I know, I think at the time I retired, people now are just getting started. I mean, I was 30 and I'm like, oh, at that time you're done.
Changed
What
a
are you
lot.
doing still playing
Yep.
tennis at 30? And my body gave out a little bit. I would have loved to have the physios that they have right now and the information they have. It's amazing what they can do. But at that time, hey, go get a job. You're 30 years old. Go
Yeah.
move on. And I kind of had that mindset. I was ready to go use my industrial engineering degree right after that, and hop off the tour and go see what else life
Yeah.
had for me.
Well, you also beat Todd Martin, Philippoussis, Wayne Ferreira, who won our event in LA. I remember sitting in the stands watching him beat Leighton Hewitt in the finals of that event. I mean, great players, and Wayne's done great things for tennis. So, a couple tour doubles titles, not too shabby, Mr. Thorne. Got a
Well,
great pro career.
I
So,
took I took one of my worst losses to Michael Chang right out of college. So I don't you didn't want to bring that up, but I lost 6-1, 6-1. And
took 2 hours though, probably, right? Knowing Wade Michael.
I wish it was, but no, it was sub 1 hour. And that was my little intro into pro tennis. And I qualified at the tournament, which I was happy I qualified right out of college for a tour event in LA. And then he played Pete Sampras first round. That's
Right?
before Pete actually, everybody's like, this Pete guy's probably going to be pretty good. And
Yeah, I remember.
I think I played Peter Lundgren first round and got fortunate, got a win, and then played Michael. And I remember walking on the court. Uh, I was just coming out of Georgia Tech and playing college matches, which are intense and everything. But the first person I saw was Johnny Carson. And
Sure.
I'm
Yeah,
like,
the stadium. Yeah, right there.
yeah. And I was like,
Yeah.
wait, this is why would he be? It just, no, I was just clueless. And I kind of came in and I'm like, man, he's here to obviously not watch Michael, but here we go. I got to entertain. And I was so nervous. I went out there and I lost under an hour. And I remember Michael came up to me afterwards in the locker room, and I think he's 16 years old this time, maybe just turned 17. And he's got his hand on my shoulder. He goes, "Oh, it's all right. You just need a little more experience. You hang in there." And I was like, I didn't know whether to be offended. This little guy who's like a teenager, not even, and or I respected him so much because he
Yeah.
had done so much already. I
Oh,
was like,
sure.
oh, thank you. I needed it.
Yeah, and that's totally genuine with Michael. And he's got a
Oh,
daughter now
absolutely.
that's
Absolutely. It wasn't, yeah, it was
yeah.
absolute from the heart.
He has a daughter that is a really strong junior player. Will eventually hopefully be transitioned to college tennis. So
That's right. I
been
saw
there,
them.
and great
Yeah.
family. He's done a.
Yeah.
It's great to see. I saw him at the Orange Bowl last year. It was fun to see him. So
Yeah.
great. All right. So then came back to Tech, took over the reins, your assistant 1 year, and then the school correctly decided, hey, we've got our solution right in front of us, and they hired you, and you've been there ever since. So obviously, some of the great players that you've coached. We mentioned Guillermo, your current assistant Kevin King, first round draft pick, by the way, of Intense. I
Yeah.
watched
He's
the
in there
draft
now.
last
He's
night.
going. He's excited. He's ready to
Yeah.
go.
Hosted by
Big
Irina
things.
Falcone, another Georgia Tech. They did a good job with that. Chris Eubanks is
Mhm.
another player that probably maybe wasn't the best moving into college that you helped develop. I mean, I think that's been a consistent theme. One in the last few years I've noticed, Andres Martin, who
Mhm.
was a Georgia junior, good player that you turned into a great player, and is still
Mhm.
is doing. He's out there playing. He's consistently competing at the challenger level. So I'm just curious what your philosophy is at Tech, your coaching philosophy. Obviously, you got a very difficult school that you got to manage, the players in that regard as well. But coming into this, I'm sure it's evolved over the years. But being at a school like Georgia Tech, I think a
Yeah.
lot of times the coaches forget sometimes, their first job is that you're educators. You're educators
Yeah.
on the court. So I'm curious how that's
Yeah.
how that's developed for you and where you stand now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there has to be a certain level of tennis that a person has to get up to once they meet that. But we look at a lot of does the person actually love the game of tennis? If they don't like the game of tennis, they might be playing for their parents, they might be playing for their coaches, and things don't go well. Or eventually, it's just a matter of time. And so we try to see those guys that when they say they're going to work hard, they have the sustainability to do just that. We look at integrity. I mean, I know everybody talks about integrity. That's a kind of everybody likes to talk about. Well, we seriously do. We've brought people in to Georgia Tech and really wanted them as tennis players, and if they don't treat their parents well and the people closest to them well, which we'll notice on a trip. A lot of times parents are coming now, or at least one parent will come. If you're not treating that parent well, then you're not going to treat a teammate well over time. It's just people you spend the most time with. If you're not treating them well, that's not a good sign for us. So we definitely look at those things, and we look at trying to figure out if a guy has potential, and if he does, we want to really get them inside exactly what type of player they are and develop them, not develop just the team generally. Chris Eubanks would, the first thing we kind of worked on is, look, don't be afraid to double fault. Who cares? You got to be feared. You need to step up and hit both serves. If you miss them, who cares? The guy didn't hit a ball and he feels terrible anyway. So
Right.
you need to learn how to make people feel very uncomfortable. And that's the same for every different style. His just happened to be that. And I think in other sports, maybe in basketball, they get a coach to train the centers and you got that, or the point guard. And us as coaches, sometimes we just try to train everybody the same way. And we've got to really be specific. And I've got plenty of flaws that I don't coach well in. I'm very humble about that. And Kevin King might come over and do something technically that I'm looking at, and he might know a lot more than I do, even though I've been in this for a long time. And I have no problem, kind of leaning on different people in my coaching. And I think that's how you kind of get more well-rounded as a coach. And but we want guys to come in and have a clear vision of who they are on the tennis court. I think it starts off the tennis court. If you don't know who you are off the court, you're going to drive yourself crazy.
Sure.
I'm a Christian. I believe that we're all here for a purpose, and I my faith is the most important thing to me by far.
Yeah.
But I'm not pushing that on people. I'm not trying to, just I just know that I have purpose outside of losing a tennis match at the NCAA tennis, tournament. And
Right.
so how I act, which is not always great, but this is not the most important thing. Being a mentor is really important to me. Winning is very, very important to me. Trying to be excellent at whatever you do is very, very important to me. But knowing who I am long after I finish this is the most important. So the biggest honor of coaching and going through of everything we're talking about and is to sit back and one day look back and go, at least I mentored these guys in the right way on and off the court so they can be good parents, good spouses, and I mean that. That's not just what I'm supposed to say to represent Georgia Tech. That really makes me smile when I see that happening from the guys that I've coached.
Yeah. Well, I think if anyone had their eyes open, at least the time that I've been here, that's absolutely evident watching your players, not just when they were at Tech, but how they've transitioned out. You've had a huge impact on them. And we just want to thank you for all you've done for college tennis. And, college tennis right now is in an interesting spot. We're hopefully the
Yeah.
optimists, and we're going to be in a good spot eventually, but it's a little scary time right now. So we need people that understand the original intent of college athletics, right? And I
That's
think you have
exactly
that
right.
philosophy. So I wanted to thank you on that. I remember talking to you about Chris Eubanks briefly after a match or something, and we were talking about that. I said, Kenny, if Chris can just get 2, 3 forehands in the court or make a couple service returns, he might end up being really good, and he ended up being pretty good. So
He did okay, huh?
I know you did a good job
Quarterfinals of
coaching him.
Wimbledon. Yeah, there's
You did
always things
okay.
to work on. The interesting thing on development, and I look at it, and it's everybody's got an opinion on. Oh man, just do this, do that, and it's easy for me to do that when I'm looking at on the TV and watching matches and going, oh, why didn't he just do this?
Right.
The day to day inside, this you might be just on the cusp of barely doing what the other thing that you're trying to get instead of all these other things that we know they need to be doing. And you're just like, man, we're hanging on to this identity and let's just keep it there. As soon as you jump over here, you can lose your identity.
Good
And
point.
so it's fascinating in coaching. I think it's I respect every coach out on the pro tour in college. In the juniors, I think I respect all the coaches out there that are doing the daily work. They're getting up every single day. Tomorrow morning, they're going to get up and they're going to go out and do their drill session at their club or at their private courts or wherever it is. Keep doing that work. That's absolutely the most essential work that you can do, especially with the younger kids. And I had a coach here at Georgia Tech who was a track coach, and he was from Russia, and his son was a pole vaulter, so he was a pole vault coach for a while, but just very straightforward, just boom, 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 boom. You do this, and he goes, the problem with you guys, you have your best coaches, they're up out on the pro tour. And in Russia, we have our best coaches and 10-year-old, 8-year-old, 9-year-old, 12-year-old, and they're the ones that are making the difference. They're getting the fundamentals well. And I'm like, well, we got some really good coaches at that level as well, but I think we need to celebrate them more and continue to train and do them a justice of by the time they get to Georgia Tech, if the work hadn't been done, if Chris Eubanks hadn't had, work with Donald Senior coaching, he traveled with Donald and just learned a lot of the fundamentals. There's no way I would get any credit for him doing anything.
Right.
And so that it's so important that we celebrate as well as we get more of our coaches into that age group to really get the fundamentals down.
So Kenny, as we wrap this up, you went into the Georgia Tennis Hall of Fame in class of 2006 with the great Jamie Kaplan and Eddie Williamson. I'm sure you remember that night of great celebration. And thank you so much for all the times you've come back to celebrate the new inductees. And we're looking forward to this coming year with Ansley Cargill and Bobby Reynolds. But
Yeah.
when you got the phone call going back to, whenever 05, 06, when you got the phone call that you were being inducted into the Georgia Tennis Hall of Fame, do you remember that? And what does the
Yeah.
Sessions Georgia Tennis Hall of Fame mean to you?
Yeah. I was more kind of a little bit like, why would the Hall of Fame is a strange thing for me because it was like, why would they want me to come to be in this and this, and honestly, not false humility. It's just never thought of it, never had any kind of, the word fame I'm not real comfortable with. And I get that what they're doing, but it's just kind of, you keep your head down and you work hard and you do some things. And I guess it was a really neat time for me to look back and go, oh, some work actually paid off. Because I don't think I like I said at the very beginning, I think it's, oh, you always have your head down, you're just trying to do the next right thing and next, and you're thinking, oh, the goals that I achieved, yeah, that's fine. I was supposed to achieve those, and the goals that I didn't are still in front of you. So I think this is just a neat time to me to look back on my career and go, oh, that was kind of cool. That was nice. But also more to look at the other people and celebrate them and go, man, yeah, you guys, y'all, there's so many different people that are in there. Bobby Reynolds coming up, and you're looking at all the things that they've done, and it's just it's neat to be surrounded by those people. And I was surrounded, like we talked earlier, by Bryan Shelton. If he was out practicing, I was like, oh, I got to go hit serves. He's hitting serves. I
Right.
got it. So you surround yourself with people like that, and you just keep your head down. And I want to encourage the young kids, just get around people that have the same goals or even higher goals than you, and just hang on. You don't have to compare yourself, all the results, and drive yourself nuts. Throw that part away. Just do your best, but get around them. If they're practicing hard, they might pull you into a couple more practices than you would have done on your own. So that's what being surrounded by all these people, and Jamie Kaplan, all the people that you look at, you're like, okay, that's neat being around those people.
Yeah. No, it's a tremendous group of folks, and a very diverse group in terms of the backgrounds,
Yeah.
what they've contributed to the sport. I'm very,
Yeah.
very honored to be a small part of.
And thanks for what you do, because I think you have a thankless job sometimes. And out there, I see you refereeing, and we see each other
Fine.
quite a bit. But you're honest. You got integrity. Same thing. You got integrity. You're giving back doing these. You could be off doing your own thing. I know you're in the middle of a D3 college
Yeah.
thing right now that you probably got to get off the phone and
Keep
go.
talking. My
So
phone hasn't rang in a half hour with a problem.
yeah,
So
amazing.
this is
So
great.
so seriously, thank you for what you're doing and giving back to tennis in so many different ways. Know you're appreciated.
Well, I appreciate. Yeah, thank you. It's been a great time, and will continue hopefully to be a great time here in Georgia. Since I came from LA, it's been welcomed, and the ability to be able to feature a lot of our great Hall of Famers, which is what we're doing today. So, Coach, here's to another successful years at Tech, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Darren. Appreciate it.
All right, folks, that's catching up with Georgia Tennis Hall of Fame person Kenny Thorne, class of 2006. We hope you enjoyed that conversation. Be on the lookout for the next one shortly. Thanks for watching.